Much love to you. This is REGFNHOWARD Raw, Siren Buddha Medicine, and we're talking about being unbalanced, or rather having a lopsided perspective. Perspective is all about your pivotal point, and right now, I really feel it's important to go over this lesson that I've learned. Not just me, but through a discussion. I've learned that, and through observation, there's others out here who see this same message. And so it's time for us to reevaluate what is consciousness. But we're not really playing with the same interpretations as we've seen other people define it. Now, for one thing, on the menu is we have people who say that a vegan or vegetarian diet will bring them closer to consciousness. This is being marketed like it's a key. No, it is most definitely a tool and should be heeded at all times. But it is not the only tool, nor is it the one tool that will balance everything out. To be a vegan or vegetarian without the rest of the work that needs to be done to bring us closer to those around us, to be able to empathize with the connections, with the majority of the connections, with more of the connections. We have to do more than just eat right. You cannot recognize a frequency that you haven't corresponded with, not truly. And to think if we just eat right, that everything is going to be all right, it's kind of like looking at the priests with their garments on, you know, all the symbols and the headdresses and their goblets, and the music is going, and you think this is a sign of spirituality, of purity, of something closer to God or to the Creator. And it's not. It's what the Bible speaks of when it talks of clinging cymbals and sounding brass. And the vessels are dirty on the inside and clean on the outside. So it appears to be this depiction of spirituality, or something clean, something virtuous, something wholesome, something that you would want. But the inside is sour, it's fermented, and it's dead. It's dying. It's on the way out. This is the lies we tell ourselves from our own limited perspectives or our own pivotal points. We need to have a full spectrum of light, which is one of the reasons why sunlight is so important at this time. Notice how, after all the planetary alignments that started happening after 2012, how the frequency of the sun, for those who are in the know, has increased. And so we're going through another stage of evolution. Evolution, evolution. What's happened in the dark must come to the light. Cream must come to the top. We need a full spectrum of light. What I'm getting at is, take the chakra system. You gotta take the chakra system. You have to take the planetary system. in which the chakra system represents, which corresponds with the tree of life. And as we climb through these different perspectives, these different tests, these different learning events, these different cycles of life, we gain our pivotal point of perspective, depending on where we are, how much knowledge we've gained, and the contents of our heart as the steering wheel. How much can we empathize with, truly conceptualize? How much have we interacted with, and how did we perceive it? Were we able to erase prior indoctrination and programming? Or did we hold on to it for dear life out of fear of what's on the other side of that limited perspective of our own personal or cultural, social, religious, or spiritual pivotal point? Like thinking that one must have a particular diet or a particular religion or a particular skin color or a particular economic status or a particular gender in order to evolve with a true creator, to truly be spiritual and connected to the planet. One needs to have the full spectrum of light, full chakra system activation, for lack of a better word, I would say. You're not talking about full blast on, but to be familiar with each color or spectrum of color, to be familiar with each band of light that has hit the planet, to be aware of each vibration and each frequency, spiritual power. Like each band of color has its own entity, is its own power, frequency, has its own function. In the same way that each house within the tree of life is connected to different functions that we have within our being, in which we will need. In the same way where you have Geb, which you can say that that's attached to the planet, or your physical function, or even finances or current, because it's attached to the root. We also need to incorporate and allow ourselves to program ourselves with indoctrination of the other faculties of spectrums of light. You know, we also need to open up communication, truth, and creativity, which would be blue. You know, and forgiveness and gratitude, emotion and sensation. And so if you look at this, it lines up and it corresponds with the tree of life and with other theologies and philosophies that we come into contact with, that crisscross in theologies and stuff as we go deeper into this rabbit hole of knowledge. We find the difference between truth and fiction within our daily walk. And we would hope that, there is hope. We would have faith that as we walk, that there was hope for doors to open up and there wouldn't be obstacles. Because we are about the solution. And the solution is in the full spectrum of light. Notice how, during the winter months, one become depressed and begin to see things differently. When things are sleeping, I'm a New England person. Things look a lot different if you have seasons than they do if you live someplace that's normally tropical year-round, or just warm, or dry, or cold. We have this thing they call seasonal depression, and there's these light lamps. Why is it that a light lamp is helpful to someone with supposedly what's called seasonal depression? Why is this time when that now that there's a higher frequency of light spectrum since the planetary alignment, is this so important? This is the time when the age of enlightenment, the time when those frequencies change the body's DNA so that we can correspond with the evolution of the planet and the awakening. So whatever was in the dark is coming to the light. The thing that they were standing on is rising to the top. And that's all the knowledge that they were governing us with and ruling the planet with and deceiving us with. And part of this is the notion that one particular healing modality or tool will be the one thing that will open all doors. This is not so. And the same way that that priest is able to hide behind his robes and his vessels, and his spirit is still corrupt in the inside, evidence shown by lots of people not helped, looked over, judged, people molested. There's even been wars that have been funded by the church. You could say all wars were funded by the church if you want to look at how the Vatican is in control of England, which is in control of part of the whole Britain thing, which is in control of Washington and all government and finance and banking, which is in control of programming people, giving you the sociology. So when we look at the new knowledge that's out, there's nothing new under the sun. And the sun itself, if we open ourselves up to the frequency and the spirituality of the planet itself, separate from ego, open to change, vulnerable to love, and to seeking out true light frequency, to the whole entire spectrum of color, you need a double rainbow to balance it out. Why is this? Because every power and frequency that hits this planet gets corrupted by those powers that be. They distort every powerful or good thing and use it to their benefit. And anyone who doesn't open up themselves to the full spectrum of light is going to get caught up in the distortion. You cannot be on one band and call yourself. You can't be on one band of light within the spectrum and call yourself a one-man band. Doesn't work that way. Oh, let me change that. We see that it has been working that way. Those of us who can see, and see also that this is a crock of Baloney. Just because you look the part, don't mean you is the part. What's going on with your heart? What's going on with the work? It's not about what you have. It's not about what you look like. It's about your true interaction with the Creator. Because when I'm trying to please the Creator and get closer to the full spectrum or the full picture, a broader example, a truer interpretation, a wider pivotal point, a healthier view point, I have a better opportunity to be free than being stuck in a box with people who don't even know they're in a box because they're stuck on one band of perspective. The food is important. Your spirituality is important. That food is not going to change your heart. If you're a butthole before you turn into a vegan or a vegetarian, you're most likely going to be, I'm pretty sure you're going to be one after. You know? Especially if you're excluding the other people. Who are you helping? What populace are we opening ourselves up to once we learn something and start using it? Something I figured out, like when you lock in on one particular band of frequency, it's tricky. We got to work extra hard against that current that we opened ourselves up to stay connected to the rest of them. This is part of the responsibility of balance. Because no matter what current or power that you lock onto, you can get swept away with it. Whatever mystery, whatever knowledge, whatever, frequency. It has a personality. It's an entity. It's a spirit. It can carry you away, take you on a ride. So we must stay connected to the rest of them. Because that's how we are who we are. And get away from the eyes and the egos. Fly away. Fly away with you. You must be familiar with the corresponding frequency in order to match its tone. If you don't know love, you can't match its frequency, so you must look for it diligently. Who can we learn from? If we can't get outside ourselves and remove the ego, then we can't see. We can't find it. But when you do, you can see it in other people. A desire, a warm feeling, a sensation when you watch animals, family groups, the way they nurture each other and find food, forage, and fly together or crawl together or run together. There's so many lessons in the way trees and plants grow, the way water runs, its different frames, how it turns from sky to snow to air to water. Life is beautiful when we allow the full spectrum of light, full spectrum of color, double rainbows in my mind neutralize how angel light or angular light or angles have been being distorted. And color, prism, is all about angles and the way that it hits our irises. Our irises, thinking about egos and perspectives. Our pivotal point, wherever we are within that tree of life, within that light spectrum of chakra system, whatever it is we're working on, we must still continue to open ourselves up and leave a door for the rest. Divine intervention must be always present within our intention to reach back, and forward for help and backwards to give help. Potato chip once in a while might help one connect to the frequency of those who need it most. Just like the shaman or the indigenous healer may drink some alcohol, or use tobacco to walk in through a particular frequency and bring himself and clean it and make it whole. There's nothing to heal if you can't go into the wound. We are the wounded healer. If we pretend that we're not, what is the function and the purpose with a whole bunch of people full of hot air, clinging cymbals and sounding brass, dirty on the inside because they can no longer admit that they are part of the problem because they've become super guru, priest, God, in one form or another without it even admitting it, some of us. Flying away with our own thoughts and emotions, locked into one pivotal point or array or spectrum of color. A child doesn't have these boxes. It bounces from one spectrum of thought to the other, uninhibited. I would say a child is like something that could bask within a double rainbow, protected from the distortion, able to think whatever with its heart, moving within each part of the full spectrum of light, making decisions based on the heart and not the eyes. The eyes have it. The eyes no longer have it. The eyes are blind and messed up. Justice, their justice is blind. If you look with their eyes. But if you look with your heart and are able to seek out, feel, you can see, experience the full spectrum of light, which gives you the capacity for all your senses to enjoy everything around you, guilt-free, with awareness and accountability. That yes, we need this and this and this and some of this too. We got a big job to do. Don't be fooled. Don't be fooled by people locked into the traditional ideal of therapeutic. Trustworthy. Knowledgeable. Warranted of your affection. All unreachable. Because none of it is truly there without the full spectrum. It's been a big burden to have to continue to live through the eyes of these constructs that have corrupted our system. Thinking you're better than somebody because of the way that you eat or dress or live is no different than Hitler. I'm hearing people like, they can't even speak because they're not a vegan. Or they can't speak because they're not a vegetarian. They still eat meat. They can't speak because they still listen to rock and roll or rap music once in a while or whatever. Can't even speak to me because they admitted vulnerability. They admitted the need for change. Now these people who have pointed the finger are without the ability to change in the light of day, or to be therapeutic and helpful for everyone. What a burden not to be able to change or grow because you feel like your head is too big and full of color. Anyway, I hope this helped. This is Siren Buddha Medicine, REGFNHOWARD Raw, talking about the full spectrum of color. Trying to cancel out that lopsided point of view and bring in a little balance with much love to you.